So it starts really in 1854. Minnesota becomes a state in 1858.
My great-great-grandfather got here and was actually the first person in our region who was killed, who died. He was struck by lightning on his team of horses, his son John, only living thing that survived.
You have an interesting path because you are an attorney, but yet you continue to farm.
I think it's that connection to where we all came from. It was really a law school professor who sat me down one day and said, "Brian, where do you want to be in 5 years?" And I said, "You know what, I think I want to be at home." Part of the beauty of this area is that it's been this incredible secret. This is really one of the gems in the United States and certainly the upper Midwest. St. Joseph is really special.
My guest today is Brian Schoenborn. He's an attorney and partner at Spencer Fane and actually grew up here in the central Minnesota region. So before Minnesota was a state, your family was here.
That's correct.
In this region.
Yes.
What, original settlers to the area?
Yeah, one of the original settlers, European settlers in Stearns County. We got here in 1854.
Why this region?
Well, it was really Father Piers and the Catholic faith to begin with. So our family's from southern Germany, and Germans during the Reformation were pushed out of Germany, and they were recruited by certain Catholic leaders, including Father Piers, Minnesota, to come to this area because Stearns County was very similar to Bavaria, had a very similar farming background and culture with the people that were here, and so they were recruited and were able to practice their faith.
So let's just set the stage for a lot of people who may not know where we're at exactly. Yeah. Stearns County's in really central Minnesota.
Yes.
So you're talking about Germans being recruited to the area.
Yes.
But why here?
Because of the fact that the farmland was good and very similar to where they came from, and it was available. And so Father Piers found this area and also the New Ulm, Minnesota area as spots that would be great for farming, agricultural German Catholics to come and be able to be Catholic.
Did it look similar to?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think from a land standpoint, it looks similar. The quality of the land, the ability to farm the land, and I think the availability of the land too.
One thing that, and I ask because, so my family comes from Finland, and I know my grandparents would always say that the northern part of Minnesota where we're from, and the lakes and the trees, it all looks like Finland. So it must have felt like home. You get off the boat and you find yourself here. Yeah. But also, too, you talk about the freedom of expression and spirituality and the Catholic faith really entrenched in this region in so much there are two major universities right here as well.
That's correct. Yeah, absolutely. And so as that faith tradition made its way here, priests and monks and sisters made their way here and started to continue to profess their faith and grow communities and churches and parishes and schools. And so there's this long history of faith and education and values and families and everybody just almost like exporting this German heritage to this region and creating a new Germany.
So it starts really in 1854. Minnesota becomes a state in 1858. But your family continued to be here and to farm here?
Yeah, absolutely. So my great-great-grandfather got here and was actually the first person in our region who was killed, who died, and he was killed by a bolt of lightning. He was struck by lightning on his team of horses. His son John, his name was John, his son John was with him. His son John was the only living thing that survived. He died, the team of horses died, and he survived. And then the family was the first actual student from St. John's University, Henry Emmel, married the widow, my great-great-grandmother, and raised the family, started a store, and the community was called the Schoenborn Settlement, which is about 20 minutes from here, and then that became Spring Hill. The spring on the hill was on our family farm.
Struck by lightning?
Struck by lightning, yeah. And then when they came upon the scene, the horse's hooves were over a foot into the ground, driven into the ground, and the only survivor was his son John Jr.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
You're into history, I can tell.
I do love history.
Yeah.
A page of history is worth a volume of logic. You got to look back to know where you are and how to move forward.
Yeah. So when you think about this region, agriculture is still a big part of this Stearns County and this region. But also, this is not maybe your typical topography in Minnesota either.
Right.
What are we sitting on?
So this is a very unique spot. There's a glacial moraine, a place where the glaciers stopped and deposited rock right where we're sitting. So this Avon Hills, St. Joseph area, there's a stretch from Avon to Kimball, right in the middle of Stearns County, that's hilly and actually wasn't real successful agriculturally. So that's why our farm is not right here. Our farm is about 20 minutes from here because there really weren't farms here. And that's actually how St. John's University ended up here. So the monks from St. John's originally located just south of St. Cloud State University on the Mississippi River. And that community is still there. It's now considered a children's home. There's another organization that's taken that over. But that was the original St. John's University. Because of a land title dispute and a concern that they didn't have clear title to the land, the monks ended up abandoning that site and coming out here because they could get a lot of land. And they ended up acquiring 2,500 acres, which is now Collegeville, which is really where we're sitting. It's right adjacent to St. Joseph, the city of St. Joseph.
So I'm going to ask you a lot about St. John's, St. Ben's in a little bit. And people who are not from Minnesota, you have heard of St. John's University.
Yeah.
It has been written about often, specifically Division III football and the iconic coach John Gallardi as well. But I do want to kind of stay on farming. You have an interesting path because you are an attorney, but yet you continue to farm.
Right.
What is it that's in your DNA that you just want to continue to be, on the farm?
Yeah, I think it's that connection to where we all came from. And there's just something simple and wonderful about being connected to the earth, to the ground, and making things happen, creating things, growing things, and just being connected to it, to the heritage. It just gives you a root system that feels a little stronger. And so we've been fortunate, and farmers have a tendency to not change a lot. And there's been a lot of wonderful changes as well in this area, and it's neat to see the history and the tradition connected now with a whole new world of ideas and people. And that's one of the beauties of St. Joseph, is it's this great connection of wonderful history, wonderful tradition, culture, but then you always have new. You always have with young students and new Americans, and there's this healthy vibe that connects yesterday, today, and tomorrow.
And St. Joseph is unique, certainly with a lot of the small businesses and the people and the diversity, and you have a lot of that coming in.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times people don't associate small towns with change or growth.
Yeah.
But certainly we do see that across the country. But certainly in St. Joseph, it's a model for small towns.
It really is. Yeah. It is interesting how St. Joseph is driving change. And it's not reacting; it's really proactive, and it's certain people. It's alumni, it's people that are from here. One of my partners, Shannon Weeger, is a Benny, St. Ben's alum, and she's been renovating buildings in downtown St. Joseph and bringing new businesses into the community. Some are female owned, and that's been really neat to see. Others are just all sorts of people that want to make St. Cloud and Central Minnesota, and specifically St. Joe, home.
When you say because you work across the country, really.
Yeah.
When you say St. Cloud, do people know where it is?
No, they don't. We've had to try to educate them on where St. Cloud is. It has a tendency to be, you're connected to a larger community. So it's an hour north of the Twin Cities.
Yeah, so I deal with the same thing, being from Perham, which is a small town. It's about an hour east of Fargo. But then I have to even go a next step because I'm like, well, Fargo's about 3.5 hours northwest of Minneapolis, St. Paul.
Correct.
So
most of the United States sees us as flyover area, and if you don't connect it to something large, they don't know where we are.
Well, that's what we need to be seen and heard here. In
although sometimes we've flown a little under the radar screen, and while we want to get out and connect and bring people in, part of the beauty of this area is that it's been this incredible secret. This is really one of the gems in the United States, and certainly the upper Midwest. St. Joseph is really special. The Avon Hills are really special. It's time to let people in and have more people enjoy it, and I think people have discovered it, and we're seeing that. But there's just something here. It's the spirit, it's the vibe, it's the nature, it's the tradition. There's just something great. And I think you've experienced that over the last few days.
We certainly have, but it also is probably reflective in the fact that your family originally settled here in the 1850s, and you're still here, right? You're still on the same plot of land.
And it's interesting as well. That, we're still in the same spot, farming the same farm. I feel like you have a tendency to want to come home and then stay home. Like there are people that have done all sorts of things that are from here, and for some reason they're pulled back here. And I think it's just because this place is different, and it's better in certain ways. And it's the relationships, it's the people. Yes, there's natural beauty. Yes, there's all kinds of fundamentals that make this area incredible. But more than anything, it's the incredible people.
Yeah.
And we're just all called home.
Yeah. And there's a lot of people that are like you that we call them rural by choice. They were born here, raised here. They didn't want to leave because they love this region so much. Your mom being one of those people too. Bernice is her name. She worked at St. Cloud Hospital.
Yes, she did.
Right?
Yeah. She graduated from high school at the age of 16 in Stearns County, of course, and started running the St. Cloud Hospital at night. Started at the age of 16 and retired at 80. 64 years in the exact same job as the night supervisor, administrative supervisor. And she's one of those people like Cher and Prince where you just had one name as Bernice. You didn't need to know her last name. It's like, Bernice here? Yeah, okay, we're fine. Mm-hmm. So she would still be there. She's 91. She's still in the dream house she built in 1972. My room is still my room. The whole place is a time warp.
You still got
posters
up on the wall?
Yeah, oh yeah. And she would be at the hospital if she could be because she loves helping people.
Hey.
And that's part of the tradition of central Minnesota and St. Joe and St. Cloud area as well. There is this incredible commitment to others. Like we are here to make a difference in people's lives. Help.
So you have this great perspective now, certainly. But let me ask, you're 16, 17, 18.
Yeah.
Did you feel the exact same as you do now? Or did you, like a lot of kids, want to go out, experience, get away from here?
Yeah, you think you know everything, you know nothing. And you have this pull to do all these other things. And so, I wanted to go do things all over the place. I had opportunities across the country. It was really a law school professor, the dean of the law school when I was at the University of Minnesota, who sat me down one day and said, Brian, you're looking at all these opportunities in New York and Chicago, and he became the head of the American Bar Association and wanted me to come with him to Chicago. He said, Ryan, the law is a relationship business. Where do you want to be in 5 years? And I said, you know what? I think I want to be at home. My family's been in the St. Cloud area and St. Joe area forever. I want to make a difference in my hometown. You got to be for where you're from. And I'm from this area. I'm for this area. I want to make a difference here. And he said, Brian, go home. And I said, really? Brian, go home. Start there. Grow your roots there. And so I did. And fortunately, I've been able to do things nationally and internationally. It's amazing how being in a smaller town doesn't mean you're stuck in the smaller town. You can do a lot to impact a lot of lives positively. And so in sports business and things that I've been able to be involved in, I've been able to do things all over, but I'm still grounded here. And it just means more. It feels more significant and intentional.
You went to high school here.
Yep.
You went to college at St. Cloud State.
I did.
But then after that, that's when you went to law school, right?
Yes,
You went to law school at the University of Minnesota in the Twin Cities.
Yep.
But one thing that you said there that I think is important, oftentimes I think there's this misconception that you got to go to a large city or you got to go away to make a big difference, that you can't go home, or maybe if you end up going back home, that's some sort of signal that you didn't make it in life or something like
I agree
that.
with you.
But is that what you're kind of getting at? Like,
I think
did you
so.
kind of have that a little bit?
Yeah, because friends go and do other things, and you should be able to do that too, and you can do it, but you're not doing it. Why are you afraid of the future, afraid of opportunities? I think that's changing. I think it was more that way a generation ago. I think with technology, the internet, the ability to be able to be really anywhere and do anything, you don't have to go and sit in some big city in some big office to do something significant. You can pretty much do anything. You can get anywhere from here. Yeah. That's the beauty of rural America and rural Minnesota and small town Minnesota. You can do anything from here. You can kind of have it all. So if you really want it all, this is a place to have it all, because you can be able to be connected to the earth and go on a bike ride in the Wobegon Trail and come to St. Joe and eat and drink and have fun and be with your friends and recreate. But you can also do things all over the world.
Yeah.
You can really be involved in anything that fills your heart. The meaning of life is love, and all that matters is time. Find what you love, the people, the purpose, the passion, and throw your time into it. And if you love a place like St. Joe, get deep into it and find the magic in it and throw your time into it.
You know, that's such good advice. That was something that I really struggled with too, being in broadcast journalism. Especially, you know, I grew up in a small town and just thinking I have to get to a large city. I have to do this. I have to do that. One thing that I kind of learned along my journey, I mean, it was, 15 some years before I ended up back here in Minnesota. And even then I was in a large city as a TV anchor in Minneapolis.
Yeah.
But I look back at that journey and I'm thankful for it. I grew, I got better, I learned, I got to experience all these different things. But you know what? I was never really that happy.
Yeah.
I was always looking forward. I was never present.
Yep.
I was always
What's next?
And I was always frustrated because I wasn't where I thought the end point should be.
Right.
And it was always this, well, when I get this, then I'll be happy. And I think that is oftentimes something that as a young person you start to strive for.
Right.
But in reality, that's not what life is all about either.
And we have to go through the journey. You know, the journey helps us figure things out in life and connect dots. But if you can shorten that journey, and that's one of the things I've been fortunate to do, is I shortened that process, and it took a little courage because you're pushed by friends and even advisors, mentors that think you should do more, be more, go more, and to say, I don't know about that.
So you got great advice from a mentor.
Yeah.
But let me ask you, what was the worst advice that you got from a professor or a mentor?
Oh, gee, good question. I think the lack of understanding how you care, like so much of, especially the law. Like the law is a very rigid, rules based. Take your emotion out of it. Take your heart out of it. People that teach law believe that you need to kind of shrink your heart a little bit, or certain people do that way. I think it's the opposite. You know, I think in any professional service, and really anything, one, you got to be really good at what you do, hopefully great, and you got to strive to be the best you can be. Secondly is you have to care, and people just don't care anymore. I think people around here care more, but I think advice along the way from professors, you know, focus on the technical, focus on the transactional instead of focusing on heart. And you can invest your heart in something and be let down, and it's hard. You give time to people, you give energy to people, you give opportunities to people, and then they let you down. But you know what? You learn that way. And then you get to decide later on where you want to invest your time and what people to invest your time in. So I think some of the worst advice was just missing what really matters, which is the investing of heart, the connecting with people, not understanding the importance of relationships. That's what, at the end of the day, all we have is our relationships and our reputation. So what are we doing to help people?
This might be a stereotype, but you don't hear a lot of lawyers talking like you. At least not publicly.
No, you're right. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. I am, I think, different in that regard. And I even think as a business attorney, I joke with people that I don't think most people wake up in the morning saying, I can't wait to talk to my lawyer unless they're in jail. So you don't want to talk to lawyers. You have to talk to lawyers. So I'm a very different lawyer in that I'm a business person who happens to be a lawyer. I actually do it. And as a result, I try to be more valuable in helping people accomplish things, not just telling them what to do. You know, AI is going to be able to give you answers to questions. The law is going the way of the dodo bird.
Yeah.
You have to be able to help differently. And so I think part of that is really going deep into being valuable. What do you need to be successful, and going deep into that. It's not just on the surface. It's like, what makes you tick? You know, what are you trying to be or accomplish or do? And then helping get there. So a lot of what I do is beyond just true practice of law. I'm not just typing stuff up. I'm connecting people. I'm helping people. I'm opening doors. I'm solving problems. I'm not just saying, hey, go left, go right. Page 47 says jump up a bridge. You should do that. I'm trying to be a little more connected and valuable in the process.
Yeah, you learn a lot too from the mentors that you have, good and bad.
Yeah.
I think back, the worst advice I ever got, I interned for a TV station, major network in Washington, D.C., and the person that I admired the most had said to me, look, if you really want to make it in this industry, you cannot get married. You cannot have a family. You cannot get married. And this is 20 plus years ago. And that really messed me up.
Yeah.
Like I started to push people away. I wouldn't let people in.
Yeah.
Friends, if I was dating someone, I just wouldn't let people in. And even with my wife early on, like I knew the second that I met her, I'm like, she's the one I'm gonna like ask to marry me someday. I just knew. But yet I put up a wall because we were both in small market and wanted to, reach what we thought would be the pinnacle.
You don't want to restrict or somehow delay your success in life by doing something. Yeah, I see that. And in my situation, there's two types of lawyers. There's litigators, people that go to court, and then there's transaction lawyers, people that help people do things. And in law school, I was encouraged because of negotiation skills, and I've taught negotiation over the years through the Anderson Center and other organizations, but I was a pretty good negotiator. And so professors said, you need to be a litigator. You'll be a really good litigator. You should go to court. You'd be great in front of a jury. Okay, but I don't want to spend my life arguing over a piece of the pie. Yeah. It just doesn't seem like a good use of your life to say, we're going to argue about this for 4 years. I'd rather make the pie bigger. Like, how can everyone get a piece of the pie, even a bigger piece of the pie? That seems like more of a valuable life than just arguing over a piece of the pie. And so professors are like, oh, you should, that's crazy, Brian. You should do this. I get it, but I don't feel like it's not resonating with my heart and soul.
Right. And you were able to find that, and you were able to do that here from home. And I think, and to tie it all kind of together is that, I spent so many years chasing, and it wasn't until I ended up getting there. Yeah. Then all of a sudden I got there and I was like, well, wait a second, what did I miss out on back in my hometown? Correct. And the values that were there and the people that were there. And so being able to, I think now, help others see that, you can achieve the dreams that are on your heart, follow your passions, and you can do it from a small town. I think that that's an important message.
Yeah, and it reminds me when you were saying that of a professor of mine that gave me great advice, and his name is Bossy Ayo, and he said, Brian, don't just be good for something. A lot of us want to be good, but let's do something. Don't just be good for something. Mm-hmm. Make a difference. Like, how are you leaving this place better than when you got here? We all have a responsibility to make things better. We all have needs along the way, but at the end of the day, we should have given back more than we took. And if we all give back, if we all strive to give back more than we take, we are going to create nirvana. And I think this community is an example of that. People truly strive to give back more than they take. They want to help you more than you help them. They're not takers, they're givers. And that culture, that energy, that commitment to others is one of those things that you just can't put your finger on until you live it and you go, wait a second, this place is different.
Yeah. I'm going to admit something here. So, you were coming out of law school and you're thinking maybe New York, maybe Chicago, maybe LA, maybe any big city. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, wait, no, I really want to go home. And you had a great mentor who encouraged you to come back home. And here is home, central Minnesota, right?
Right.
I'm also from Minnesota. However, I do not love hockey.
That's tough.
I don't love hockey.
I'm a basketball guy, though. I didn't play hockey. It's weird I'm so involved in the sport of hockey, but I didn't play. I didn't have a chance to play.
Well, it's so interesting because everywhere I go, people are like, oh, you must love hockey. You must understand hockey.
Right.
I get hockey, but we didn't have it in high school.
Yeah.
which is wild to think for people outside of Minnesota, but our high school didn't have hockey, so I didn't really grow up with it. I grew up a basketball player. I loved basketball. And so you were kind of similar.
Yeah.
You grew up with basketball, but you
Right.
do have that love for hockey,
Yeah.
even in so much as like not only in your practice, but you own a team.
Yes, yeah. So it's a crazy story, but when I was at St. Cloud State undergrad, I had a chance to start working in the athletic department, and I got to know Craig Dahl, who was the hockey coach who took over for Herb Brooks, who started the Division I program at St. Cloud State. Made a huge difference, and so Craig and I became friends. And Craig knew I was really a business guy who happened to be a lawyer, so he understood in my heart I like to make things happen. I like to do things with groups of people. And so when I got out of law school and decided to come home, one of the first people who called was Craig Dahl. And he said, "Hey, Brian, I got a business idea." I'm like, "Okay." So we met at the Green Mill, downtown St. Cloud, and he laid out the United States Hockey League to me. And I thought, isn't that, I know that's where you get your players, sort of like redshirting in college football. So players that go to the University of Minnesota for football, they typically don't play as freshmen. They sit out, they get stronger, they learn, and then they're a redshirt freshman as a sophomore. In hockey, you redshirt in a place called the United States Hockey League, junior hockey. So he taught me this, and I said, "Isn't that just girlfriends and moms and dads?" He said, "No, Brian, it's actually a business. Think of having the Minnesota Wild and not having to pay the players. Very good business." So I looked at that, and I had built a friendship with some other partners, Rick Bowerly and others, and so we started a business to put together a United States Hockey League team. And that's how I got to know Bill Sexton, who became like a second father to me and is very, very influential in this area. And he's still one of my absolute most important people in my life. But we started a team in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And the purpose around and why Sioux Falls was I wasn't going to leave St. Cloud. So I love this area. I wasn't going to leave St. Joe. I was living right here in St. Joe. And so we had to find the town closest to this area that was inside the footprint of the United States Hockey League that didn't have a team, and it was Sioux Falls. So I would literally many days work as a lawyer at a firm here, wrap up at the end of the day, drive to Sioux Falls for meetings, about 3.5 hours, and then drive home. I'd go there and back same day, and we started in 1997, dropped the puck in 99. Had a lot of success, praise God, to the people and the team and Bill Sexton. And then that started to just unfold. And then people started calling, going, "Hey, Brian, are you that guy that did Sioux Falls?" And all of a sudden I became a sports business attorney that did national work based on the fact that I didn't just talk about it, I did it. So having success in Sioux Falls, that success became a calling card for me that ended up allowing me to do sports business work, hockey, but then into baseball, basketball, arena football, all sorts of sports. And it's just been based on having success and being different, hopefully better, and having people call that want that different and better experience.
When you first went into law, was sports on the mind?
Not at all.
Oh, it wasn't?
No, not at all.
And so it just became this opportunity, and then
if my
you were
first
successful
project
at
would
it.
have been a bar or restaurant, I might have been a bar and restaurant attorney. I don't know. It wasn't, in the law school, you don't specialize.
Yeah.
You specialize once you get out. So in medicine, you specialize when you're there. The law, you just become an attorney. And then usually within a few years after you get out, you have experiences that give you more knowledge and wisdom, and you become a specialist in that. Sometimes it connects with your undergrad education, but oftentimes not. And so I didn't have any thought of being a sports business attorney. But really, sports business is driven by family business. So it's a family that, you think about if all of a sudden the St. Louis Blues are for sale. The king or queen of St. Louis says, "Hey, I want to buy the Blues. I think that's what I own the widget company. I'd like to own the Blues." The advisors for that entrepreneur says, "Whoa, Sally, wait, Fred, you need to be careful. You know widgets. What do you know about sports business? How do you make a small fortune in sports business? It starts with a big fortune and turns into a small fortune. So it's a nice way to lose money." So all of a sudden, the team says, "Who knows this thing?" And weirdly, they'll call me and say, "Hey, Brian, are you that guy that helps people not just do the agreement, the lease or the purchase agreement, but helps people be successful in sports?" And I say, "Yeah." And so I help them, and then oftentimes they see that this is different and they had more success, or maybe I was more valuable, and then they say, hey, can you help me with the widget company? So all of a sudden you have clients all over the country that maybe started as sports business clients, but then turned into clients. And so all of a sudden you're sitting in St. Joe helping people all over the country. You think, well, why aren't you in St. Louis? You don't have to be in St. Louis to help people in St. Louis. You can be right here in St. Joe helping everyone wherever they need you. You just have to be able to help them in ways that are valuable and meaningful.
And helping on the farm, which I find is so interesting with you. So not only helping at the highest level as an attorney, also from a business perspective, you talked about the sports part, but yet still your roots, you're still on the farm.
Yeah.
You getting your hands dirty?
Yeah. Not as much as I should. More of the administrative side of it, but but I'm doing more farming now than I have in my entire life, other than when I was a kid working on the farm. So growing up, I was working on the farm. I love it. Yeah, it's rewarding to connect back to where we started, and there's just something about it, and it also allows our family to get closer again, because you kind of went out and did things, and we have family all over the country. And all of a sudden, people coming back saying, hey, we're rallying around the farm. In fact, in 2 weeks, we're having a family reunion celebrating my Uncle David's birthday and getting everyone together at the farm.
What's the biggest lesson you learned from living on a farm? I mean, you have a different perspective now that you're a little bit older.
Yeah.
But when you look back as a kid...
Yeah, and interestingly, I grew up in St. Cloud. I didn't grow up on the farm. So the farm was a crop farm, and my parents had the farm. My Uncle David had the farm. My mom's job at the St. Cloud Hospital was more important than my dad's farming. So you could see who wore the pants in the family, which is wonderful.
Bernice.
My mom was the boss and still is. So she made my dad drive to the farm. So every day my dad got up and drove to the farm, and we grew up 3 blocks from the St. Cloud Hospital. So my mom could get to work quick and my dad had to drive. So we grew up in St. Cloud, but farmed. So it was an interesting, unique situation where all summer long I was with my dad at the farm helping, working, but then we drove back into St. Cloud, and I grew up in St. Cloud on the north side of St. Cloud.
Yeah. Well, one of the lessons, though, growing up, like what would you say, because you watched your mom work, right?
Yep.
You watched your mom lead
Yeah.
the hospital. You watched your dad on the farm, so you had really good role models there. Just watching them. Also, I would say there is a certain work ethic here in central Minnesota.
Yeah.
So what would you say?
That German agricultural work ethic, and almost to a fault sometimes, where people just like you the way you love people, the way you say thank you to people is you do stuff for them. You work, like get the work done. And if you can't get the work done, then you're not doing anything else. I mean, it's serious work ethic area, and farming is that, where there's not some day off, especially if you have livestock. We didn't have livestock. We did when I was young as a family, but then sold it in the 80s, our milking herd. But there's no day off. So you're working. And the way you express love oftentimes is working together, doing things while you're working, doing things for people that displays that commitment to each other. But yeah, the work ethic in this community and just culturally at a root level is different too. And I think a lot of businesses that migrate here, they feel that right away, that people that they're hiring have a tendency to be just a stellar employee, not just character wise and values wise, but their work ethic.
Brian, you are working some of the largest deals in the country.
Yeah.
Yet you choose to be here in central Minnesota, in rural Minnesota. How come?
Well, I think maybe I drink my own Kool-Aid sometimes, where I feel like this is awesome, and I've talked myself into it, but I think it's real, and other people have seen the situation and the world that we have here and been drawn to it. I'm going to New York for a transaction next week. I'm working on a soccer team transaction in Sarasota, Florida. So I'm able to do things all over the place, but still be here. And I'm not saying there aren't great places in this world. There are all kinds in this country, but there's just something different and something better about being here, rooted here, making a difference in this community, in my hometown, but also having the ability to do things that are all over the place and actually introducing people to our community. Because I think while we like this best kept secret thing, there's also something wonderful about introducing great people and just people to what we have here, because it is special.
Well, I think you're such a great role model too, in that oftentimes I think people think you can't go back home or you can't go to a small town to achieve your dreams, but yet here you are living the life that you want, doing the biggest things possible in your field, yet still choosing a rural place. And it just goes to show, like, you can live a global life, yet still call Central Minnesota
Absolutely.
home.
Absolutely. And more people are realizing that. The number of people, I was fortunate to not be the full Boomerang Club person. I didn't have to go out to come back. I got good advice to not do the journey out to come back. But there's a lot of people that are making the journey to go out and come back. And they're realizing, gee, it's amazing what's going on within a mile of here. The people doing amazing things that are just global. You go, how in the world is this place doing that? And people are humble, they're quiet about it, but there are people working for Major League Baseball that are right here. There are people working for global companies that are right here. It's incredible what is going on, and you can do it in a humble, community-based, kind of quiet way. It's becoming a little more, celebrated. But there's just something really, really amazing about Central Minnesota and the St. Joseph area, and it's attracting people.
Between Wi-Fi and that thirst for quality of life.
You're right.
And have
You're
it right
100% right. Yeah, I agree.
All right. Thanks, Brian.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for having me.